Opus 4.8 is now in chat, and benchmarks show that it's much better than both ChatGPT 5.5 and Opus 4.7, and you can also use 4.8 for the same price as Opus 4.7. Actually, 4.8 is a bit like the footsteps of Mythos. We're getting closer and closer to that legendary, incredibly powerful Claude model. It's like we're getting there step by step, and I'll explain why in this video. At the same time, Opus 4.8 changes many things in its usage. It has differences compared to 4.7. The tweaks they've made to the model will also change how you work with it. We'll be examining those as well. We have increasingly powerful models, and this makes everything we do a bit easier. So I'm quite happy, to be honest. If you're ready, let's begin. I'm Mert. I'm an AI entrepreneur. Currently, I'm running a very profitable AI automation business. In addition, I've founded over 4 startups in the past year, and 2 of them are now competing with the world's biggest. On this channel and in the community, I show you how to benefit from AI and start making money. I'd be very happy if you like the video and subscribe to the channel because we're growing together. The more you support, the more videos I produce. More topics are found based on your ideas. Thank you very much in advance. Also, if you'd like to join the community, I've left the link below. We have a very successful community. Everyone shares their success here, as you can see. We have many lessons. Everything from mobile apps to web design, AI automation agencies, and detailed Claude Code lessons is inside. There's a live stream every day. We have a technical support team. If you want to enter the AI world, earn your first money, and start your venture, I'm waiting for you. Now, today, it's May 28th, and on May 28th, Opus 4.8 arrived. It arrived almost a month later. Actually, it came a bit later than that. We could say it was about a month and a half. Since 4.7, many things have happened in the meantime. There are new model announcements. GPT 5.5 had also arrived, and now 4.8 is at our fingertips. And it came at the same price. By the way, it's exactly the same price as 4.7. And they've actually increased the rate limits now as well. What we call a rate limit is basically the limit on the number of tasks that can be done simultaneously with your usage limit. So they've increased that too. You can see it here, because in the usage sections, there's now something called max. We actually had an effort section. They've changed the effort section. An effort level called max has been added. This means it works harder, the model. And when the model works harder, it needs to consume more tokens at the same time. That's why they have increased these limits as well. It might not be something you usually hit, but if you're doing several projects at once or very detailed work, you've likely encountered it. It's actually quite a frustrating situation, though. We'll look at it step by step, from what it is to why this model is important, and why it's actually the footsteps of Mythos. So I'll show that it's one of the models that might bring Mythos in a few weeks. Now let's take a look at this blog post, the one they shared. It says it's already built on top of 4.7, and it says that users will actually have more authority, more control in this effort part we mentioned. At the same time, something called fast model arrived. There was fast for Opus 4.8, which was 2.5 times faster. This is 2.5 times faster. And 3 times cheaper, allowing it to run that way. Now let's get to the benchmarks. We can think of this as what Opus 4.8 can do on paper. But it doesn't work like that in the real world. Let me tell you, according to this, it's much smarter than 4.7 and 5.5 and GPT 5.5. And in agentic terminal coding and multidisciplinary reasoning, and most importantly, agentic, it says it's improved a lot in computer use, though. For example, in practice, I also prefer GPT 5.5 for agentic computer use, but for agentic coding, the number on paper was correct. So it might not work exactly like this. So what happens in these benchmarks doesn't reflect the user experience or the projects the user does. Benchmarks are still being done by AI. Benchmarks, measurements, we might not see exactly this in user usage, though. There's one thing we see. Compared to 4.7, there's a big jump, especially in agentic terminal coding. Also, where is the big jump? It's actually mostly there. Agentic computer use, multidisciplinary reasoning, and so on. They've all increased. What do these mean? I'll show you, but there are a few more things here. I'll show those too. Now, as we go down. But first, I opened a Claude here in the terminal. So I'm opening up Claude just like this. I actually typed the number 2 here because I use multiple different Claudes for various tasks. As you can see right now, Opus 4.8 is currently open and ready to use. Let me pause for a moment to show you exactly what I mean. Now, the change they're talking about here will be effort. When I type effort, an extra thing called Ultra Code appeared like this. It's glowing purple, has XIs and high workflow. You can see it here. There's max, there's XIs, there's high, so it's changed quite a bit. We actually had XIs, max ultra codes have arrived here. And with these, I actually have something like this. I can say this based on my experience. When you switch to these two, it feels like you're using something even different from Opus 4.8. It's like you're using 4.9. So if you're wondering if these make a difference, yes, they do. In a real-world usage scenario, max and ultra code can be incredibly effective. Of course, the skills you use and your configured Claude Code account are important here too, but I can say this takes it up another level. It's important to use them in the right places because these features consume a lot of tokens. It's especially important whether the project actually needs this or not. As you use them gradually and become more expert, you'll figure out and learn how to do what's needed. But these features have made it even better. I also like this animation. I feel like using it all the time, but we'll probably hit the limits very quickly. Now we've come to this. There's something they've said. All users who tested Opus 4.8 said that this model's judgment and its performance in agentic tasks are actually more reliable and sharper. Now, this is a bit of a subjective topic. When we say something is more reliable and sharper, what we really mean is that we're referring to a certain kind of quality, almost like having a particular persona or a specific attitude when giving answers. So what exactly is this quality we're talking about? Let's take a closer look at what it means. Now, when we moved from 4.6 to 4.7, there were a few changes, especially in completing users' work requests. It became even more reluctant in certain areas. 4.7 did. There were even times when it said it was tired and didn't want to continue with the project. Before it was like, come on, it's late at night. Go to bed, we'll start tomorrow. We saw that quite a lot. Now we understand that they've made a change in this behavior. This inference is actually what their statements show. There will be a different approach in 4.8. They also say it's a more honest model. Now here we see the views of Harvey and Every from 2 tests they conducted regarding Claude 4.8, but for a large part of the model, they've dedicated it to this, focusing on its honesty. This is very interesting. They're talking about how honest the model is. The model is, we train all our models to be honest, we give them that training, but sometimes in AI models, there's this jumping to conclusions in a very overconfident way. Even if it's still developing, as soon as there's a tiny bit of evidence, there are issues like accepting it and presenting it as fact. But they say that in Opus 4.8, they've created a model that notices these uncertainties more quickly. Thanks to this, Opus 4.8 is 4 times more. It catches these and prevents them from happening, that is, from reaching a conclusion. What does this mean? Actually, many times, it has probably happened to you, most likely. Opus 4.7, 4.6, even the Opus's Claude models are good at this. Before GPT 5.5 or with Geminis and DeepSeeks, there were cases of them claiming to have done the job. For example, taking a 15-step task to the 5th step and then claiming it's completed. They had such claims, saying, I did this job, claims like that. When you press them, you could find gaps. For example, it would say, yes, I've completed it, we finished the project. But when you said, check it, it would say, sorry, I was wrong. Actually, we're at this level. We still need to do these. There were problems like that. This is the confidence they're talking about. They say there's an improvement in this in 4.8. I tested a few prompts. I specifically did a project and prompted them, and I can confirm that there really is an improvement. It approaches it differently. As I said, you get the feeling that you've switched to a new model. It's the same model, still Opus, but its behavior in this regard changes the way it works with you. You can already see the misaligned chart here, and you can see that Sonnet misses much more. Opus 4.7 is also quite high at 2.4 points. Sonnet is almost at 2.6. This one is at 2.5, somewhere in between. But with Opus 4.8 and Mythos Preview, when we say Mythos, as I said, Anthropic has this thing called Project Glasswing that banks call extra powerful, which they use to find such errors, and which only companies that can pass security verification can use. This, how should I put it, allows Mythos Preview to be opened only for the use of companies that take incredible security measures in the public sense. Because if it falls into the wrong hands, it can hack bank accounts very quickly, perform many transactions, and even hack other states. It's that powerful of a model. We see that we are gradually converging to that model with these features. That's why we're going step by step. In the end, at the right step, they will take the security measures and give it to us openly. Anyway. But from what we see here, we've come very close. This is actually one of the footsteps of Mythos. Slowly, in 4.9, maybe other features will improve, maybe 5, will be Mythos anyway. I keep saying Project Glasswing. Now, what does it say? They're giving their message here too. If you read this part, it says user will find, they'll see Opus's progress more clearly, but it says we're continuing to develop it. We will keep developing Opus and our other models. In fact, what exactly will be done specifically? We'll be releasing Opus models at a lower cost than before, but that's not all. There's more to come. We're planning to release a new model. It'll be a model even smarter than Opus. As part of Project Glasswing, which is actually the Claude Mythos preview that only a small group of people can currently access, we will be releasing a much more powerful and advanced model. And it also says that Mythos class models are going to be coming to our customers very soon. This is a very important part. As I said, we can see we're heading there above. That's what's happening now. Now, 4.7 came out on May 16th, but let's leave this purple part. Many people weren't actually happy with 4.7. I've even seen many YouTubers, developers, and people saying 4.6 was better than 4.7. Now, there were complaints about 4.7 being particularly lazy. This seems to have been resolved as far as I can tell. You can try this out. Actually, let me write effort again. Max was selected. Let's select Ultra Code. This part is very fun. Now, /goal was added to both Codex and Claude Code to overcome this laziness. This was so laziness would stop. And at the very least, a clear goal would be set, and once that goal was established, the model would keep running without stopping until everything was fully finished. But now, without needing that, 4.8 goes straight to execution when you tell it what you want. This is very important. So you don't need to specify an extra way to overcome that laziness. When you explain your goal in natural language, we have a model that's more willing to achieve it. Secondly, it had become overly safe. It was refusing to do many tasks. It happened to me very often. For example, when I showed 4.7 designs I liked, it refused to do them because it's a design from somewhere else. It said I can't copy it even if I just wanted something similar. That's why these kinds of problems arose. There were also many claims that it used more tokens for the same task than 4.6. There were some problems like that. And the funniest thing was 4.7 was stubborn and had a bit of an attitude. One of the most common things mentioned in the community was that it could be moody. It could just cut things off and so on. I think all of these problems have been solved. They both made token improvements and there were glitches in the tool calling function. They say those from 4.7 were fixed with 4.8. They say token consumption dropped by 61% in certain tool callings. In this regard, it actually seems like Anthropic is listening to us and responding, and it seems like they're making improvements. That's what I gather. Now, as you can see here, dynamic workflows, it's equally important for it to be able to do more work. These are available specifically in Claude Code Enterprise Team and Max plans. I'll make another video about dynamic workflows. Effort control is also available in Claude.ai and CoWork in the same way. Messages API. Now it also accepts messages within the system. What does this mean? Actually, you can also intervene in between. In the task you've given, this is also important. Normally, while waiting for the task to complete like this, you can add another task in between or make a correction. This is truly one of the important parts. Now, here you can see how it should work in Claude's own files. Specifically, there's information about dynamic workflows here. It says we're announcing dynamic workflows. In this way, orchestration scripts. It explains how it can be done with parallel subagents. I'll make a video of this, as I said. But dynamic workflow is one of the very important topics. And here is the prompt engineering overview, again from Claude's files. What's important here is this. There's something they say, don't use negative prompts. In other words, if you direct it on how it should do something rather than how it shouldn't, they say Claude gives much better answers. They say, what does this actually mean? Sometimes the problem isn't with the model. Sometimes the problem is in how we talk to it, how we guide it, and how we give it what we want. So our way of communicating with it determines the output we get. Actually, one of the most important skills you'll acquire is learning how to use these AI tools. Because now there's no need for Excel or many different Microsoft tools or many tools required at work, but there's a great need for one thing, using AI well, especially using Claude Code well. So one of the most important points here is how you communicate with it, how you do projects with it, and how you approach it. Most likely, you might just be coming here and selecting a model. You might not even be selecting a model. And besides model selection, you might just be having Opus or Sonnet do everything, even though Opus isn't needed for every task. But as far as I understand, the most important lever now is this. It's that purple effort setting we just saw, because these will actually determine the model's performance based on the task. By deciding on the effort this way, you'll actually use 0.9, as I said. And when and how you do this actually depends on what kind of project you're developing. That's why these have become more important. Regardless, having a more powerful model at the same cost is very good. I hope its performance stays good, doesn't cause headaches, and even brings us improvements. As I said, I'll examine other features and do projects, but this is what I see for now. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.